Hello again, everyone. Uh, so um, Today I'm going to just finish up something about the string builder and string buffer classes in Java. Uh, we've used the string builder class in our last class programming exercise. Uh, we haven't used the string buffer class, but only a few things that you need to know. So basically, the string builder and string buffer class, they're both um, mutable classes, meaning that you can edit the text. I want to say string, but I don't want to confuse that with a string class of Java. You can edit the text stored in both string buffer and string builder classes. Um, the difference between them, though, is that, and it's basically added on this slide. I'm going to upload this together with the updated lecture slides for strings and text I/O. The difference is that as long as your program consists of a single thread, there's really no difference. Um, uh, but you might have heard of or might have heard of programs that execute multiple threads, basically programs that uh, divide up tasks um, into separate tasks that can be executed in parallel on a machine that has multiple cores, for example, um, or even on computers with a single core, older CPUs. Um, in both cases, you can get performance gains. We'll talk about multiple threads in a program. We'll talk about that a little later if we can get to it near the end of this course. Um, but with the use of multiple threads, as you will learn later on, uh, uh, come synchronization problems. Think of it this way. Think of it as when you have two users trying to edit uh, the same file at the same time, if it is shared somewhere. Um, so that can cause problems. Um, what you have to do for that is you have to do something called synchronization. Basically, you have to ensure that really there's only one user or one thread in this case accessing the data or writing accessing the data at one time. That's called synchronization. The string builder class is not synchronized, meaning that if you're going to use a string builder between multiple threads, you can run into problems. Um, the advantage of the string builder class, however, is that it is more efficient than the string buffer class. But if you're going to have a string type of object that will be accessed by multiple threads of your program, you should use a string buffer. You should use a string buffer class instead of the string builder class. So that's really all you need to know about the difference between string buffer and string builder. Other than that, they are they have pretty much the same methods. You can use them interchangeably. So we move on to something that we've been seeing since the first time you wrote a Java program, and that is a little more detail about the main method. Now, the, the very first program that you've written in Java was obviously inside the main method. Um, you can see that the main method uh, uh, has a slightly more complex, perhaps, than needed syntax. Um, you'll notice that in the main method has something in the argument. And now that we're a little further along in our study of programming of Java, we know we can look back at that and see what that actually means. So what it says in the main method by default is string. Then we have these empty square brackets and then args. Basically, what this means now, and now should know what that means, is that the main method is taking uh, an array of string a string array, an array of string arguments called args. It can accept that as argument. How many strings in that string array is not specified. So what good is that? Uh, well, we know that the main method is basically where our program starts executing. So let's say we have a class, we have a project, a class called test main with a main method in it, and this is usually what the argument for the main method looks like. We've never done anything with them, but what it basically allows you to do is when you're calling your program from the command line, I should edit that to look something like this. When you're calling your program or executing your program on the command line, usually you write Java because it's a Java program. So the JVM is going to execute your program. Test main, the name of your project, your program, and after that you can add, separated by spaces, a bunch of text, which will be treated as each of these arguments will be treated as a string, and these strings that you give over here at the command line are received as arguments in the main method, and you can use them over there. So this means that you can take arguments, you can take some kind of information from outside the program, and you can receive it when you start executing your program, and you can do stuff with it. It can be a file name, it can be a number, it can be anything. Oops. Okay, so hold on. Okay, so basically that syntax that we have been accepting of so far is basically a way to get information from outside the program into the program. And what we're going to do is we're going to build something like this. I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm not going to call this calculator because I'm calling all the programs that I'm writing for you. I'm using my own notation for every week, for every day of the week. But this is basically what we're going to do. A program, I'm going to call mine week 8.3 instead of calculator. And you can, after that, we will be able to give it 3 arguments. First argument, a number, then an operator, plus, minus, division or multiplication, and then another number after that. And this is basically going to be a very simple calculator program. So we switch over and let's begin. So first of all, let's test if we can actually receive arguments from the outside. So we're using NetBeans IDE, which means we're not really, when we're making our program, writing our program, compiling it, we're not running it from the command line every time. But in this case, we want to not only run this program from the command line, but also provide some arguments on the command line. So without going to the command line interface, I can also do that from within the NetBeans IDE, and I'm going to show you how. First of all, let's just see how arguments from the command line can be received in here and how we can access them. So let me just put in a loop over here which will run for as long as, for the length of this string array args. And what I'm going to do here is I just want to print out whatever I received in the main method. So I'm just going to print out a nice message. So command line argument number, and then I'm going to insert the number over here. Colon and space, and then after that I'm going to print out whatever the argument is. Okay. Now if I run this, so So if I run this as it is, I haven't given any arguments yet, so nothing interesting to see in the output. If I want to provide some arguments, I can go into Run, Set Project Configuration, Customize, and you can see there's a field over here, Arguments. So this is basically same thing I'm providing over here on the command line for when I'm running my program from within NetBeans IDE. I can provide those same arguments in this field over here. So let's say just type anything. So, hello world. Okay. Click OK and run this. You can see that the first argument that was received is hello, args0 is hello, and args1 is world. And you can go back in here and change that. So in our case, we're making a calculator. So let's say 2 plus 3, same thing as in the slides. Run this. So the first argument received is 2, the second is plus, third one is 3. How now? You might think that since we're just doing addition, we can just write 2 plus 3 without any spaces in between, but if you do that, you can see that 2 plus 3 is treated as a single string and as a single argument. It's probably not what you want. That will make things more difficult. So what you should understand is that the spaces in between are basically used to separate different substrings, different tokens. You can put as many spaces as you want. So this is basically at the back end. This is using the split method, which we've already used. So you can try this. You can see even if I add in more than just one space, it'll trim those spaces and it'll just retain the non-empty substrings that are not space characters. Okay. Go back here. Okay. Make this, convert this to something more reasonable. 2 plus 3. Okay. Okay, so now we know how to receive arguments from the command line into our program in the main method. Now let's do something with that. Okay, so basically this program will perform one of 4 different calculation functions. So switch, the switch statement, and switching will happen based on what the middle argument args1 is. Now, there's still a mistake in here, but we'll get to that a little later. Okay. All right. So we have 4 different cases, and we decide whether args1 is a plus character or minus sign or division or a multiplication sign, and so on. And obviously we're computing a result, so let me create a double variable result, initialize it to 0. It's just initialize I also to 0. It's just good practice. And result will be equal to, now remember args are all strings. what I want to do is I want to perform a mathematical calculations. Okay, so this will not work. I have to convert args0 and args2. I have to convert these to numbers first. So how do I do that? So I want to convert these to doubles because I want to be able to accept fractions. So there's you can use the parse double method of the double class like this. So this will take a string and it will convert it into a double number if it can. Double dot parse double, and same thing for args2. Do some copy pasting. Just like that, subtraction, division, and multiplication. And when we're done, just print out a neat message, something like args0 and put a space here, args1, another space between the operator and args2, then equal sign plus result. Now, there's a lot that can go wrong over here. If somebody doesn't provide something in the string that can be converted into a double, we'll have problems. Of course, we'll get an exception. And you can see. I'm not going to do any of that. I'm not going to check for any of that right now. Or maybe I can check for at least one thing, that the number of arguments provided is 3, not more than 3. So I can do that if args dot length is not equal to 3. Print out a message, something saying system dot out print line invalid number of arguments. And then maybe I want to exit with some type of code. So let's exit 0. And even over here. Okay, so just in case something wrong with the argument that's provided, let's all add something called a default case. So if none of these 4 cases are hit, then what to do? Let's print out a helpful error message and print out invalid operator or argument, and let's just exit and all this. No need, let me add a break condition, a break statement after that. Okay. Now, we're still not done. As you can see, we still have get some error messages over here, and this is what's going on. The switch statement is switching based on, can be made based on numbers, but in this case, we are comparing against specific characters. This over here, args1, is not a character, it's a string. So how do you get a character out of a string? We already know that we have to use the char@, method to get the first character of the args1 uh, string argument. You can see that immediately those error messages we were seeing went away. Now we're actually ready to compile this. Try this again. So over here, what did we have for? So we still have 2 plus 3 command line arguments. We run this. There you go. 2 plus 3 equal to 5.0. Or I can, now that we have this, I can change this to something else. I can even use a fraction. 3.5. 2 plus 3.5 is equal to 5.5. And I'm going to use something other than addition, maybe division. 2 divided by 3.5. This will definitely be a fractional number, like the ones before, and there you go. 2 divided by 3.5 is 0.57, and so on. Yeah, so try it out. See if you have any problems with this. And I'll see you all on Thursday. We'll do something that will require you to take command line arguments from outside and use them in your program somehow. Okay? So make sure you practice this, and I'll see you all